right, I'd like to call this meeting of the Engineering Operation Committee for South Coast Water District to order on this great day in August the 12th, 2019. And our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance, which I would like to be led by our Clerk of the Board, Joni Brennan, please.
Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jody. All right, the next item is item B, roll call of members. I think the record can show we're all present. Item C, oral communications and public comment. Do we have anybody wishing to speak? Okay. Moving right along to the consent calendar. Is there anything from staff that we would like to have pulled?
No, thanks. Thank you.
All right.
Move consent calendar?
All right, so moved. So that is to item E, new business. Item number 5, the City of San Juan Capistrano 3-year agreement to provide sewer spill response services, and our staff report is going to be from Joe McDivitt.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Director Erdman. The City of San Juan Capistrano has requested that the district provide emergency services in the event of sewer spills or sewer mishaps in their area, the city. They have a contractor that does their cleaning, but that contractor cannot respond timely. Usually it could take up to a couple hours for them to get to the site, which of course in this situation of sewer overflow is not acceptable. So they talked to the city, Eric Bauman, over several months now to develop the agreement. We actually have responded to, I would say, at least 4 or 5 overflows on emergency response, and we do bill them and have been billing them. In fact, I think the latest one was last Friday. I believe we had a response I saw on the overtime report. So we want to memorialize an official agreement with the city, and then that's what we've developed here. I have had this reviewed and incorporated comments from our council, our Kidman's office, going back and forth with the city a few times on different language revisions and such. And essentially we will be able we'll respond as we're able to. And by that I mean if we have our own crews out on emergencies, we would not be able to respond, but in most cases we would be able to, and that's clear in the agreement. And we would provide the services to contain and stop the overflow and bill them accordingly with our fully burdened rates and with an overhead markup on it to cover all of our other incidental costs. So I think it's a good situation to provide those services. Again, we have been actually in billing them for it. And as part of the consolidation process, this agreement would be in place until at which time Santa Margarita will officially, make their consolidation and LAFCO completion of the LAFCO process. This agreement has a clause in it to terminate at such time, and at that time we would likely negotiate an agreement with Santa Margarita to provide those services and even additional services such as cleaning or maintaining their water system as part of the consolidation and our agreement to provide shared services to Santa Margarita. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Question from committee?
The only question I'd have is, how is the Santa Margarita? I got this one on.
All right, sorry.
How is the Santa Margarita
Double coverage.
San Juan merger discussion going? And are we having any discussions with Santa Margarita related to that? Vis-a-vis some of these type of agreements with Santa Margarita, if they're going to go to LAFCO and then say, hey, we're planning on having South Coast perform some of these under contract.
Yeah, good set of questions. I'm actually going to lead that off by stating that a lot of the credit goes to Chris Newton and that crew because they were recognized by Santa Margarita as providing that type of assistance and a need for them in the shared services agreement. So that was developed during the LAFCO MSR process. Since then, we've met with them on multiple occasions to talk about these shared services arrangements and to find out how they're doing with that consolidation effort. So what we know so far is that things are progressing well. We don't know too much about the details, but they're ironing that out, and they haven't had any hiccups along the way. So we're expecting that they're going to, I think preliminarily, they're looking at next year, and I think it's a summertime that they would be wrapping this up and getting close to the LAFCO approval. So that's about the time frame that we're looking at. So they had asked us to iron out this agreement first with the city, and like Joe had said, work out the final details once that consolidation, if and when that's final.
Okay.
So I hope that answers most of that.
You took my question.
No.
That was going to be the same. So at least we're on the same page there. That's good.
I'll move the recommended action.
Okay, second, and so we'll send that up to our board, and we'll move on to item number 6, which is the Joint Regional Water Supply System Joint Transmission Main, Unit 2, Reach 3, and it looks like our esteemed engineer Mark Cerna is going to be briefing us. Yes.
Thank you, Director. Yes, good afternoon. Thank you. Good afternoon. So I'll go ahead and kick it off. We actually have our principal engineer, Roman Abzeta, who's going to give a presentation on this particular item. This is our joint transmission main Y-Vault project that has been completed now. And so I know there's a lot of history to this project, and Roman will cover a good part of that. But I know there's one of the first projects I worked on at one of my former agencies was this Y-Vault project back in 2013. So I know there was going on even prior to that. So there's a lot of years that this has been in development, and to get it to this stage of completion is a great thing for the district. So Roman's going to go ahead and go over the history and the process on this project.
Thank you, Mark. Good afternoon. Yeah, Mark, we did it. Finally. Let me introduce the project team. So from South Coast Water District, Sarah was the principal engineer. Kyle support us on GRWSS side. Danny helped with the inspection, and I was the PM on this project. Design was done by RC consultant. Constructability review, we contracted to Boutier Engineering. Environmental was done by EGIS. Geotechnical, GMU. Corrosion design and testing was done by Corpro. Survey by Bush and Associates. Permits, Dudek help us with that. Public relation, Edwards Media Group. And construction and management was conducted by AKM. Contractor on this project was WA Razik Construction. And last but not least was the member agencies of the project team. Project location, the project was located in Laguna Woods Villages, enclosed retirement community. It was located off Ronda Sevilla Road, close to the Alisa Creek. And as you see, this was kind of tight area between the apartment building and laundry room. The overall scope of this project was to upgrade 6 valve vaults. 3 of them are located on JTM pipeline and 3 are on ETM. It was kind of a joint project with Multonigel, considering proximity of those vaults. We combined the JTM project and Multonigel project in one. Just from it's much easier to deal and not come back later. So the scope for vault number 1 and 2, which is I don't know if you can see it, but it's located on the left lower side, close to the Aliso Creek. So the scope was to rehabilitate or remove 42-inch ball valve, remove 24-inch valve, and modify concrete vaults number 1 and 2 by extension vaults to the grade. The existing vaults are pretty deep, around 20 feet deep, and they have a 3-foot diameter manway, which creates the problem for the maintenance. So we extend those vaults to the above the grade, install larger access hatches, and construct maintenance pads. And also the scope for those vaults included modification to retaining wall and restoration of landscaping. Vault number 3 and 4. For vault, the scope for vault number 3 included modification of blow-off. For vault number 4, replacement of existing 30-inch ball valve and extension similar to vault number 1 and 2, extension vaults to the grade, installation larger access hatches, and construct maintenance pads. Vault number 5 and 6, which is located on the eastern transmission main. The scope included removal of 24-inch ball valve, 24-inch flow meter, and abandon those vaults in place. The project schedule: notice of proceed was issued on December 18, 2019, actually. 18, sorry. Yeah. A contractor was mobilized on January 23rd, 2019. A JTM shutdown was scheduled for 2 weeks, for March 15 to March 30. ETM shutdown was extended another 2 weeks to April 15, and the completion date was July 11, 2019. The project challenges was a couple of those. The major one was site constraints, limited JTM shutdown, deep excavation on stable soil, high groundwater, proximity to Aliso Creek, and wet weather. So, site constraint. If you take a look at this picture, the shaded area actually shows the construction easement, which was negotiated with the HOA, and it was relatively narrow access to the 3 vaults located near Aliso Creek, and also the HOA requested that access to those buildings and also to a laundry room, which is the small building between those building 911, 912, needs to be maintained all the time. So the construction of the 2 vaults, vault number 5 and 6, actually was on the way to the creek. So the contractor couldn't do the work on vaults at the same time. They have to finish the work on vault number 1, 2, and 3, and come back to vault number 5 and 6. Another project challenge was deep excavation. This photo shows the 20-foot deep excavation for vault number 5 and 6. And as you see, there was a constant battle with groundwater, and also it was rainy February. So it was really a challenge for the contractor to keep everybody safe and proceed with the construction. Another project challenge was the proximity of Aliso Creek. And as you see on the upper picture, whitewater rafting on Aliso Creek is possible sometime during winter. And the lower picture actually shows the aftermath. I believe it was vault number 4. So contractor had to deal with those elements as well. Another challenge, wet weather. The upper picture shows the access around the vault number 5 and 6. And as you can see, it was pretty muddy. And the lower picture shows the way of contractor dealing with the construction during the rain. Lesson learned for the permitting, easement, access, and the design. a couple of lessons. First, identify and obtain all permits and necessary waivers. Coordinate with property owners, construction easements. Identify access limitation and clearly define in the contract documents for the contractor. Pre-construction survey of existing improvements also is very important, and also it's good for the complex projects to like this one to provide a third party constructability review prior to construction bid. Actually, the Boutier did this constructability review, and it really helped us with those small things that sometimes during construction became the big change order. Also, lesson learned: provide detailed site safety requirements in the contract documents. We were dealing with the deep excavation, the access, and also confined spaces. And for the contractor, it was clear what our safety requirements are. So it wasn't any dispute during the construction what we require from them. For the owner furnished equipment, it's just provide detailed description of the equipment. For this project, the district purchased a 30-inch ball valve because of long lead time. So we want to have it in hand to not delay construction. And also, it was important to define method of delivery and equipment need, and change the custody of this equipment. The valve was stored on NJRWSS facility, which is the access is relatively steep, and also it was in a garage. So we actually took the contractor to the site to make sure that he understands what kind of equipment he needs to have to pick it up and bring to the project site. For the construction, getting the right construction management for the job is permanent for any project, and it's IKM actually did a very good job, and it actually the change orders, considering the difficulties we encountered during the construction, the change orders were minimal. Project costs. So the balance of final design and permitting, we spent $69,600. Construction contract, it was the portion of JRWSS. It was $679,900. Construction management, inspection and testing was $106,500. Tree removal and landscape restoration, $48,200. District time and environmental, $119,600. And the field orders, actually, it was $22,900 deduction. In anticipation of the changes during the construction, we allocate $50,000 for the field orders, and we didn't use all of them. So this is the reminder. So overall cost was $1,900,000, and the budget was $980,000, and it was about $21,000 more than budgeted. And the overrun is mostly associated with the tree removal and landscape restoration. We didn't anticipate, the requirements of the HOA, and the budget was set before we actually talked to them and pin it down what they needed. So a couple of project photos. Those two photos shows the vault number 1 and 2, and the upper picture shows the removal of the vault. As I mentioned, the existing access was 3-foot diameter manway, about 6-7 feet long, So the roof was removed, and the walls were extended to the above the ground, so for easy access and also to avoid the flooding. Vault number 1, 42-inch valve. Actually, the plan was to try to rehabilitate the valve inside in the vault without removal, and so we require a contractor to contract the valve manufacturer rep to be on the site and evaluate the possibility to rehabilitation. Unfortunately, the rep concluded that there's a leak between the around the shaft of the valve. So this leak cannot be fixed in the field. So valve has to be removed. So we went with the option of valve removal, and the lower picture shows actually removal of this valve with the vault number 1. It's a pretty heavy piece of equipment, about 10 tons. So the contractor also was kind of surprised, and they had to bring bigger equipment to actually move it. Those two pictures shows the installation of a piece of spool, 42-inch spool, installed in lieu of valve and a dismounting joint to ease the future installation of the valve. Vault number 4, removal of the 30-inch ball valve and installation of the district-provided ball valve. It's on the lower. It shows on the lower picture in a nice blue color. Those photos shows the removal of valve, 24-inch valve and 24-inch flow meter from vaults 5 and 6. And also, taking advantage of access to the pipe, we inspected short sections on the downstream and upstream of ETM and make a repair. The right picture shows the existing butt strap, which lost their cement mortar lining. This picture shows the repair of the installation of the 24-inch spools in valve number 5 and 6. And the lower left picture shows the method of repair of. There was like a 2-inch outlet from the pipe. So we directed contractor to weld a small piece of steel actually blocking this outlet. This picture shows the final so-called final product. So now, as you see, the landscape was really nice repair with the riprap, and you can see the vault number 3 and 4, and in the background vault number 1 and 2. And this is the area where the vault number 5 and 6 was installed and removed, and the lawn was reinstalled. So HOA was very pleased with the outcome, and actually, it's the contractor did a very good job. So what was the next steps? So we have a right now the existing valve was removed, and we contacted MWD, and they have a rehabilitation shop in Laverne, and they inspect our valve, and they agree to rehabilitate it, but they are saying that the cost of the rehabilitation if the setting, the steel seats are okay, it'd be around 100,000. If the seats are not okay, it'd be an additional 25,000. Also, we contacted the original manufacturer or whoever owns them right now, and they also said that they are not doing this for, but considering special circumstances, they said that they can rehabilitate it. However, we have to ship to the East Coast where their rehabilitation shop is. So it'd be pretty much the same cost as the rehabilitation at the MWD facility. So another option is to install the new valve, new 42-inch rubber-seated ball valve. The cost of the valve is about $75,000. Or new 42-inch butterfly valve, which depends if you want to rubber-seated or steel. It'd be neighborhood of $25,000 for rubber-seated or $70,000 for metal-seated. The advantage of having a butterfly valve is that it's much lighter. The 42-inch valve, ball valve, weighs 10 tons. 42-inch butterfly valve weighs 2 tons. So as you see, the access to the site, to those valves, are very difficult, and restoration, it will probably cost more than the valve by itself. This issue was presented on JRWS's meeting in April, and looks like member agencies are leaning toward installation of the rubber-seated ball valve. But again, I think it would be worth to bring this issue once again and discuss if the ball valve or butterfly valve, which is the best option, which suits the JTM. That's all what I have, and if I'm open for questions.
No questions. Wonderful presentation, and congratulations on basically sticking the landing with the cost estimate. You were, again, right on it, and little over this time, so at least I feel that you guys aren't superhuman. You aren't coming in under every time.
Yeah, well, I'm trying, but sometimes it is what it is. Thank you.
I'd like to also congratulate you, and from a layman's term, the project challenges of the creek. Yeah, I mean that's just impressive, and the depth as well. And glad that everything went off with no injuries and nothing. The one question I do have is one of the pictures a few back. You don't have to pull it up, but because I'll probably highlight this at a board meeting. But the condition of the pipe, how much area did we get to inspect in through the pipe? Because the one shot, if you could judge from that, looked like the pipe had a pretty rough in areas.
Yes, so we inspected JTM pipeline, which was 60-inch on the upstream side and 42 on the downstream side. It's about, I believe, 50 feet. And ETM also, it was, portion was inspected by person, if you will, it's like 20 feet. And the rest was inspected with the camera. And it looks actually pretty good. Pretty good. It's just this area where the apparently between the vault number 5 and 6, the way they install it, they put a butt strap, and apparently whoever did this butt strap, did it. I don't know, material was bad or workmanship was not right. But the rest of the pipe is in a pretty good condition, at least inside.
Yeah.
So,
So then my other question would be kind of just follow on within the whole JRWSS system where we have kind of like for like on the valves. I mean, do we feel like there's a lot of other conditions that are kind of in the CIP with this going to be coming forward, and we can expect to kind of have the same type of issues going in other parts of the system?
well, on a 60-inch, probably not, because it's this is the only valve actually on a 60-inch, with the exception of CM10. On the downstream, there's a couple of butterfly valves that they are not operational, so probably sooner or later it will be good to excavate and verify why those valves are not completely operational. As far as number, I don't have it in right now.
No, that's okay. I'm just kind of.
Yeah, but it is an issue on the lower section of JTM.
If I could just add, directors, just knowing that there are potential condition issues with the lines, it is part of our CIP to be looking at those and do additional condition assessments at different segments of those pipelines. And part of that inspection will likely include, of course, taking into account the valves, the structures themselves. That's part of the continued ongoing maintenance, but also overall inspection of those assets to make sure that they are going to be functional for a long, long time. So that's part of the next few years. We'll have those ongoing, and they will identify most likely some capital projects that will need to be performed as part of those assessments.
Yeah. And again, good news on all fronts. Good news is we don't pay that full boat. We have a share of that, and forbid there be any catastrophic failures. It's always good to be preemptive, obviously, and be in front of it. So I'm sure the board will be excited to hear you present as well. And I'll move this item to the board.
Yeah.
So be it. All right.
Thank you.
Moving right along. Let's see. So item number 7, the full-length lining sewer repairs. The 2019 notice of completion.
That goes to
And that looks like that punts over to our Chief Operating Officer.
All right,
Joe
thank you.
McDivitt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Director Erdman. Yes, this is part of our annual inspection and repair program that we do on the sewer collection system. We've actually been have this program in place since 2010-11 fiscal year, and every year through our CCTV program, we identify these areas, sewer lines in need of repair, replacement, in this case lining with CIPP. And this project in particular was 18 sewer mains, full length from manhole to manhole for about 3,300 lineal feet of repair. We put this project out for bid. We received competitive bid. I think we actually received 2 bids on this one, or perhaps only, I believe it was 2 bids or 3 bids. Anyway, it's very competitive result that we got. Awarded it to SandCon, who's done work for us for years. They performed the work in the May-June timeframe, got it done within this fiscal year, and the work's been complete for some time. So we bring to you today the request to file the notice of completion. We do have a brief presentation that Chris Newton would like to give to the committee showing the project and some lessons learned on that. So I turn it over to him for that.
All right. Welcome, Chris.
All right. Good afternoon, directors. I'll give you a wrap-up presentation on the last fiscal year's full-length sewer lining project. As Joe stated, we did 18 line segments, which were about 3,300 linear feet. One line segment was done in Capistrano Beach. It's the dark red highlight. We had 2 line segments in our Dana Point service area, and the majority of the lining project was done in our South Coast service area. The project, along with my CCTV staff of Jimmy Gomez and David Chacon, the way this project's developed is we use the PACP scores off of the annual CCTV videos that are done. And monthly we go over and we look at the scores, typically PACP 4s, PACP 5s, which would be your roots, your fractures, broken pipes. And we sit down and we from a maintenance point of view, different perspectives determine which ones are the ones that we decide would be the most beneficial to line. That's an ongoing process. The final list was developed by January 17th of this year. We put it out to bid where the bids were due by March 15th, and we brought it to the E&O committee on April 15th. April 25th, the board of directors took action, and we gave the contractor, as Joe stated, Sancon, the notice to proceed on June 3rd, and they completed the project on June 26th. During the project, there was some lessons learned. One of our pipe diameters, which was number 3, Amber Lantern and Coast Highway, was labeled in our GIS as a 8-inch line when in fact it was a 10-inch. The lesson learned there is to make sure as we come across these things, update our GIS system correctly. Thankfully, we had another line that was 1 foot off of that footage, so we were able to use that bag in another line, an actual 8-inch segment, and that is number 9, 24 North Vista de Catalina. And then we had a change order, which would have been ordering a 10-inch liner to go back and do number 3 on the staff report. So it ended up, very minimal. It ended up working out pretty well. Another lesson learned for me personally going into next year is when I don't know if you remember on social media, we had we highlighted a surcharge manhole that my staff found in Lower Three Arch Bay. And we talked about how the majority of Lower Three Arch Bay drained to this drop manhole that went to the tunnel. That was a downstream line segment from where our contractor was lining. So it may be coincidence. It was the blockage ended up being down in the P-trap in the tunnel, 70 feet down. So we never officially saw what it was. But a lesson learned for me next year is we'll set traps downstream from the lining project to collect any debris, just in case that's what it was. It may have just been coincidental and not had to do with that, but it provides an opportunity to maybe take a different approach next year, just in case. As I said, continuously update GIS data. Any work that may need night work, weekend work, just anything where the circumstances are different than what our regular daytime operations are, be planning in advance, getting the proper traffic permits, whatever we need in advance of that. Here are a couple pictures. The first one is the contractor applying the epoxy to the liner. The second one is the bag being inflated or installed from manhole to manhole. And then the third picture is where they use the steam to cure the liner to the pipe. Here's a couple pictures before and afters of the line segments. The first one is the 10-inch line that I referenced where this is the change order line right here. You can see a couple broken segments on this joint in the after picture. Here, some cracks. Again, the after picture. And then this one, same thing. And then this one's a good one where it shows a lot of roots coming in and grease that's being captured by the roots, which would eventually become a blockage. That's the presentation. If you have any questions, be happy to answer.
I don't have any questions other than, again, another congratulations. And, it's because we're a coastal community, these are things that are extremely important. And, we always measure our system on the water side for loss, and, the sewer side's just as important, in my opinion. If there's leaks and blockages and stuff like that, those are the ones that we can become very problematic. So it's not the sexiest part of our business, but it sure is a really important part.
Yes.
And, I think the public just out of sight, out of mind. But again, great job and good insight on thinking by coincidence, like you said, in that Three Arch Bay. That's good, kind of forward thinking and seeing something that might not be the cause, but it can trigger something to kind of have a creative idea going forward. So keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Yeah, again, it's another one of those projects. You guys, we give you a budget, you cut it in half, and then you beat that budget. So Great job. The only suggestion I can have is if we have situations like this where we have a $250,000 budget, maybe if you can identify some additional, if we get good costs, have them as ad alternates to where you can add on an extra 2 or 3 reaches if you need to, because with prices like this, and if we can get it done, let's get more done if we're getting prices like this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, because we really did get a great price this year per foot for overall project cost. I think the company needed the business, and we were fortunate that we could award it. And we've kind of over the years been tracking the amount of footage and the cost per foot. So we took the average and kind of put the 250 in the budget, which is a bit of a guess until we have the list together. But going forward, we've talked about potentially if they're on site and we can get these prices.
If we've got stuff identified that's on that maybe list
Yeah.
for, watch it for next year, and we get a price like this, add it for this year.
Yeah.
Keep moving.
I wanted to also bring up the cost benefit of what they're doing, and I'm glad Director Urkeneff brought this up. Having a low INI index, inflow and infiltration, not only enhances our sewer integrity, but also lowers our overall operations costs, with these unplanned outages. But if we step back another 20,000 feet, what it also does is it reduces the amount of flow to the treatment plants, the peak flows. And over the long run, because this district has been very aggressive with this program, I think we're going to see the dividends over the long run. So I wanted to bring up that point and congratulate our operations staff on this as well. Thanks.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. It looks like that will. That's just information on that will move to our board. So we'll. I'll move it.
Second.
All right. As quick as that.
Okay.
All right. So it looks like item number 8 and supervisor of control and data acquisition interface security upgrades, and looks like our briefing will be from Joe McDevitt.
Thank you, sir. Yes, we identified this project at least a couple years ago as a result of the SCADA system. Is our overall IT business network SCADA system is basically connected, and as a result of multiple discussions over the years, and more recently a cybersecurity assessment was highly recommending that these systems be separated so that they cannot be compromised, at least both at the same time or even either one of them. So this project we scoped out and budgeted over the next 2 years. This year there's $350,000 fiscal year 2020 for the first parts of this project, and that'll be the building that we're discussing today, and then going on with the technology and the design of the system and the architecture and the hardware purchases and stuff. And then going forward in 2021 is all the reprogramming that it takes to do. I'm not sure if this project will actually end up taking the $600,000, but that's what the current budget amount is. So with this piece, or what we're discussing today, is our proposal to build the building, which we will house the new servers for the SCADA system once it's bifurcated from the business network. There'll be 4 servers in the building, and there'll actually be probably 2 people stationed there as well. This building is going to be located at the GRF. There's an area there that we were able to remove a large tank, the sulfuric acid tank that we have not used for years. So we decommissioned that and moved it out of the way. This is an excellent place for it. It's secure inside the GRF compound, and then also there, the building itself will be a block building and totally secure as well, with the right security upgrades to keep it from being compromised. We did go through our consortium to get the bid, so that they actually have a competitive process, and that's what we came up with, the cost of $54,000, and then we asked for a contingency of $5,000 to award this contract and get underway with the building. You'll see in the staff report there's some drawings. I did attach the project sheet as well. That's part of the CIP process that we bring to the board every year. That sheet's about the, let's see, double-sided here, 5th page in the staff report. Just to refresh your memory. And if you look at the next page, we have an aerial view looking down on the GRF to show you about where the building will go, or show you where the building will go. And the access road to the GRF plan is at the bottom of the page. The railroad would be at the top of the page if it were on here. Stonehill would be to the left, kind of give you an orientation. And then if you look at the next pages, there's diagrams of the building plan itself, showing the CMU block unit and door and how the servers would potentially be located. We'll play around with that a little bit in the building, but that's the general layout of the building. And there's some additional detail pages with the staff report for your information. So with that, we were asking for the committee to approve to move this forward to the board of directors for approval for us to start construct the building. And with that, I would happy to answer any questions you may have.
I'll move the recommended action, and the only question or comment I have is with the cost estimates, again, coming in very low.
Well, let me clarify that, because the building at 60,000 cost estimate is only a small portion of the overall project, but so just so we know that the 350 overall for this year is, the 60 is only a small part of
Okay,
that.
so there's more that
Yes.
it's part of that 350. Okay,
Yeah.
because I was going to say it looks like you have 200,000 next year, and if you've only got 60 for the building, why don't we advance that 200 as part of that 350?
Now, the big costs are really going to be all the IT, the technology from our SCADA integrator.
Okay.
And buying the servers and doing all the connections and the programming, the wiring. And
Okay,
yada,
so
yada.
that's the 300 that hasn't been spent yet. Right
Correct.
now, you just got to build
Correct.
the building.
Correct.
Okay. No problem. That answers my question.
Thank you.
And so this will be a climate-controlled type of room?
Oh, yeah, absolutely has to be. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, then so moved. This is obviously something that's very necessary, and it's great to hear that we're continuing to, be secure with our systems and
Yes, sir.
and have kind of a redundancy offline from each other. So,
Thank you.
all right. So moving right along to item number 9, America's Water Infrastructure 2018 Act, and looks like this is going to be briefed by Andrew. All right.
Chairman, Director, thank you for having me today.
Before you start, I'd like to compliment you on your fully logoed uniform and hat.
Thank you,
Looking
thank you.
very South Coast Water District today. So
These are my work scrubs. I'm out there in the field, right along with guys and gals out there. Today I wanted to present on the America's Water Infrastructure Act of 2018. On October 23rd of 2018, America's Water Infrastructure Act was signed into law. The law requires community drinking water systems serving more than 3,300 people to develop or update risk assessments and emergency response plans. Utilities are required to submit certification of its completion to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, and South Coast Water District's risk assessment must be certified and submitted to the EPA by March 31st, 2020. AWIA also requires utilities to coordinate the risk and resilience assessments, as well as emergency response plans with local emergency planning committees. WeRock, in this instance, established a local emergency planning committee to facilitate this function. My thanks and shout out to Kelly Hubbard. Beginning in April of 2019, South Coast Water District has actively participated in the planning committee to develop an effective and efficient solution to meet AWIA requirements. And WeRock worked with member agencies to develop and open an RFP, ultimately selecting Herndon Solution Groups to work with up to 31 member agencies. The group effort should result in a high level of efficiency in contracting and completing the work, economies of scale, promotion of related standardized plan formats in Orange County, and fostering a consistency in emergency response efforts throughout Orange County. The recommended action here is that the Engineering and Operations Committee, we recommend the Board of Directors authorize the General Manager to enter in the WeRock Coordinated America's Water Infrastructure Act project consulting contract with HSG with South Coast Water District's share being $145,200, and approve the budget amendment in the same amount. And that concludes my staff report. I'm available to answer any questions.
So it looks like we're going to, under the costs and budget, move in phases. And could you briefly describe a little bit of the thinking behind that?
Sure. So the first phase is going to be a crosswalk among various regulations. There are several regulations that we comply with that help us plan for emergencies. Not only does Cal OES and the Water Resources Board require us to have an emergency response plan or emergency action plan for operation of a dam, but we also have several requirements, including ones that FEMA has in place for us to have and able to access grant funding. Because of the variety of regulations and the scope, we decided in coordination with REROC that to help them serve 30. Sorry about that. To divide the project into phases. In the first phase is going to be a crosswalk of the various regulations. In phase 2, we plan to start October 4th, pending board approval, and that's going to be more of the risk assessment work across the scope of what we're looking at. And phase 3 is going to be based on any gaps identified. We're going to update and revise our emergency response plans per the regulatory requirement. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it did. And thank you very much. And I'll move the item to the board.
Second.
All right.
Could I add a couple of thoughts before
Absolutely,
we close out
yes.
on this one? Well, the first one, I apologize that we didn't bring this with the original budget, but it's one of those things that we were, I think that as a region, in transition during this time, and it really didn't come into concrete form until about a couple of months ago. And I give credit to our staff and to MODOC for coming up with this innovative solution to hire a group consultant to handle this, because this is one of those no choice in the matters type of requirement. We have to do it. All of us are subject to do it. So that results in significant cost savings. So if we were to go about this alone and JRWSS alone, it would be at least $150,000 each to do this. Even under the combined approach, if we were to do it as individual agencies, it would be $300,000 roughly for both of us to do it. But because we are doing this together as one group, and a lot of the workload falls on our staff moving forward, it results in an overall $145,000 savings to both the district and to Joint Regional. So that's a real win in this whole effort, and doing it in this innovative fashion. The ask will be that budget amendment of $145,000 by the board. So I just wanted to clarify that issue. And timing-wise, it works out great. You know, we are relooking at a board and staff at our emergency response procedure. So this is really what it's going to provide some good outside support as well for that. So just wanted to add those notes. So thank you.
Great. Thank you. Good job. All right. So looks like we're moving to item F. Any future agenda items to be considered?
Nope,
From
I'm good.
the committee? Any from staff?
No, thank you.
All right. All right. So moving along to item G, miscellaneous oral comments. Anything from staff?
I have none. Thank you.
All right. Anything from? Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, looks like we're coming to item H, my favorite, adjournment.
Have fun fishing.